There's a certain kind of person who never really feels calm, even when the room is quiet and the day is ordinary. Their mind doesn't land. Their body doesn't unclench. They don't just get stressed sometimes. Stress is their baseline. They wake up already scanning, already bracing, already carrying a pressure they can't explain. Their thoughts arrive like a crowd running down a hallway, all shouting at once. Something might go wrong. Someone might switch up. Something might be hiding under the surface. Even when everything looks fine, they feel like they're one breath away from threat. This is the psychology of people who never stay calm. If you've ever been close to someone like this, you know how fast the temperature can change. A harmless comment can spark a storm. A quiet pause can feel like betrayal. A small disappointment can feel like a collapse. They speak fast, move fast, react fast. Not because they love chaos, but because their nervous system has learned that slowing down is dangerous. That waiting is suspicious. That peace is a setup. Most people think reactivity is a personality trait, like some people are just like that. Hot-headed, dramatic, too intense, too emotional. But that's the surface story. The deeper truth is that nobody is born allergic to peace. People become that way. Calm is something the body has to trust. And for some people, trust was never safe to build. Look closer at someone who can't stay calm, and you'll notice something important. Their reactions are not random. They're patterned. The same emotional themes repeat like a song stuck on loop. Fear of being disrespected, fear of being unheard, fear of being abandoned, fear of losing control, fear of looking stupid, fear of reliving old pain. Their nervous system treats life like a test they failed before. So it studies reality like an exam it cannot afford to flunk again. That constant studying creates a particular kind of exhaustion. The exhaustion of always being on duty, always guarding the door, always scanning the room, always solving problems before they exist. People who never stay calm are not relaxed people having a bad day. They're people living in alarm mode. Their system is always switched on. Even rest feels unsafe. Even happiness can feel unstable, like a flaw that might crack. That's why they can't just chill. Their body won't co-sign it. Their mind doesn't interpret calm as neutral. It interprets calm as the moment before something goes wrong. Some of these people are loud about it. They vent, they argue, they cry, they explode into words because they're panicking and don't know another way to breathe. Other people hide it better. They smile. They keep things polite. They seem composed on the outside, but inside, their heart is sprinting. Their thoughts are looping. Their shoulders are permanently tight. Their stomach is still braced. Their mind keeps checking the emotional weather, like it's waiting for thunder. Ask them what's wrong, and they'll often say, "Nothing. I'm just tired." Or, "I don't know." Not because they're lying, but because they often don't know the true source of what they're feeling. They only know it feels urgent. It feels like fire. It feels like something is about to fall apart, even if everyone else is sipping coffee, like nothing is happening. To understand why, you have to understand the nervous system. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala. Think of it like a smoke detector. Its job is to spot danger and pull the alarm. In a balanced system, it rings when there's real smoke. In a sensitized system, it rings when someone burns toast. For people who never stay calm, the alarm has often been trained to go off too easily, too often, too intensely. A tone of voice shifts. and their system reads it as rejection. A text comes late, and their system reads it as abandonment. Someone looks away, and their system reads it as disrespect. A plan changes, and their system reads it as disaster. Their brain is not asking, is this actually dangerous? It's shouting, we've been here before, react now. When that alarm goes off, another part of the brain gets shoved into the background. The prefrontal cortex is the part that helps you slow down, reason, and choose your response. But in alarm mode, choosing feels too slow. Thinking feels like a luxury. So the body leads, and the body says, move, fight, fix, defend, run. That's why these people don't live. In the space between feeling and reacting, they skip it. They feel and react in the same breath. Not because they want to be difficult, but because their biology is doing what it learned to do. But biology isn't the whole story. Underneath that biology is a history. Most people who struggle to stay calm have lived through emotional unpredictability. Maybe it was a home where moods changed without warning. Maybe love felt conditional and you had to earn it. Maybe people blew up, then acted like nothing happened. Maybe there was betrayal, bullying, neglect, constant criticism, or a general atmosphere of be ready. When the environment teaches you that safety is temporary, the nervous system adapts by staying alert. Hyper-alertness becomes your insurance policy. If you're always ready, you won't be caught off guard. At first, that adaptation works. It helps you survive. It helps you read danger early. It helps you stay one step ahead of pain. But the brain is loyal to what worked once, even if it's hurting you now. So it keeps using the old strategy. It keeps pulling the alarm, even in a different life. That's why a calm room can feel unsafe to a reactive person. A peaceful relationship can feel suspicious. A quiet phase can feel like a setup. Their mind whispers, don't fall for it. Something is coming. Because in their memory, something always came. Some people never learnt emotional regulation because they never saw it modeled. They grew up around explosions and shortcuts. In that world, quiet feelings were invisible. If you wanted to be heard, you had to raise the volume. If you wanted your pain taken seriously, you had to make it loud. So intensity becomes a language. Calm expression doesn't work in that environment. So the nervous system replaces it with urgency. And urgency can become addictive. Not in a dramatic way, but in a nervous system way. Urgency floods you with adrenaline. It gives you purpose. It gives you a job. It says, do something now and you'll be safe. When you've lived a long time feeling powerless, urgency feels like power, even if it ruins your peace, even if it lashes out at people you love, even if it keeps you in survival mode for years. So when life gets quiet, they feel restless. Their system doesn't know what to do, with nothing happening. In the absence of chaos, the mind goes looking for it. They overthink, they poke at a relationship, they test people, they pick fights, they create fires. Not because they enjoy drama, but because their system is confused by stability. Chaos is painful, but it's familiar. Peace feels like a foreign country, with no map. That's also why reactive people feel misunderstood. People think they're angry when they're terrified. People think they're controlling when they're anxious. People think they're intense because they want attention, when really they want certainty. And certainty is rare in life. So they chase it everywhere, in relationships, in conversations, in being right, in getting reassurance, in closing emotional loops immediately. Waiting is brutal for them, not because they're impatient, but because waiting brings up old helplessness. When you've been stuck in situations you couldn't control, Uncertainty feels like that same trap returning. So the body tries to escape uncertainty through reaction. You push for answers. You demand resolution. You rush the moment. You want the feeling to end right now, even if the ending is messy. In psychology, this is often called distress intolerance. It means the discomfort feels so threatening that you can't just sit inside it. You need to act. You need to move. You need to force something to happen. But again, that isn't a defect. It's a learned survival strategy. If the past taught you that discomfort doesn't pass on its own, you stop trusting time. You learn to force reality into clarity, because waiting feels like drowning. That's why a person who never stays calm often lives in fast forward. Their emotions arrive as emergencies. Their thoughts sound like sirens. Their body treats small moments like big threats. They talk as if every issue is urgent, because inside, every issue feels like survival. But here's the hidden part. These people are usually tired. Deep tired. They don't enjoy being reactive. After the storm, the shame hits. They replay what they said. They regret the volume. They wish they could rewind. They might apologize immediately, not because they're fake, but because the calmer part of them wakes back up and sees the damage. A lot of them say things like, "I don't know why I'm like this," or "I hate that I overreact," or "I'm trying but I can't stop it." And they mean it. When the nervous system is lit up, logic goes offline. The reaction doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like a takeover. So how does change actually happen? The first step isn't controlling the emotion. It's understanding it. Reactive people often try to beat their emotions into silence. They shame themselves. They call themselves broken. They swear they'll never do it again. But shaming the nervous system only makes it louder. The system doesn't calm down. When you attack it, it calms down. When you listen to it, real change begins. When you notice the rise. The first bodily signs, the tightening in your chest, the heat behind your eyes, the jaw clench, the impulse to interrupt, prove, defend, run, accuse, or shut down. That first spark is everything. If you can name the spark, you can stop the wildfire. Stopping doesn't mean suppressing. It means pausing. Calm people live in a pause. Reactive people haven't learned that pause yet. But the pause isn't a personality trait. It's a skill. It can be trained. At first, the pause feels like swallowing fire. The emotion surges, and your body screams to act. But you stay there one breath longer, then another, not to deny what you feel, but to give the rational part of your brain time to come back online. Even 2 seconds can change a life, because that 2 seconds is where choice lives. Here's a simple example. Someone cancels on you last minute. The old pattern says, "They don't care about me. They're disrespecting me." Say something sharp. Make them feel it. The pause says, "I'm hurt. I'm scared. I'm interpreting fast. Let me breathe before I speak." That pause doesn't make you weak. It makes you accurate. It lets you respond to what's happening now, not what happened to you years ago. And that's the core work for people who never stay calm, teaching the system that now is not then. Most reactivity is time travel. It's your body reacting to the past while standing in the present. Old alarms firing in new rooms, when you can remind yourself gently, this is not the old story. Your nervous system begins to update. It starts to learn that peace is possible without punishment. Another step is building safety into your daily rhythm. The nervous system doesn't change through insight alone. It changes through repetition. You can't just understand calm. You have to practice it enough that your body starts to believe it. That could look like walking without blasting noise in your ears, lifting weights while paying attention to slow breathing, writing your feelings before they explode, stretching at night, spending 10 minutes in quiet. When you wake up, anything that brings you out of your head and back into your body, because a reactive mind is usually a disconnected body. When you don't feel safe inside yourself, you seek control outside yourself. Regulation is the process of making your internal world a place you can trust. Relationships matter too. Reactive people often struggle in safe relationships because safe feels unfamiliar. They wait for the catch. They look for the hidden agenda. They push the bond just to see what breaks. The mind tests safety by poking it. But if they're surrounded by consistency, by people who don't punish vulnerability, the nervous system slowly learns a new template. It learns that closeness doesn't require chaos. That disagreement doesn't equal abandonment. That love can be steady without being suffocating. And that rewire is huge. Now, some reactive people have a clear trauma. Others don't. Sometimes it's smaller repeated moments. Being dismissed, being ignored when you were hurting, being called too much, growing up where your emotions were inconvenient. The body doesn't measure trauma by size. It measures by impact. So if your impact taught you to stay on guard, your nervous system did what it had to do. That's why reactivity often comes with a deep fear of being unseen, and you can hear it in the way they argue. Under the anger is a plea. Do you get me? Do you hear me? Do I matter? They're not trying to win. They're trying to be felt. And because they don't trust quiet, to accomplish that, they raise the volume. Their intensity is a translation of unmet needs. If you want to truly understand someone who never stays calm, listen for the wound behind the volume. Listen for the need behind the accusation. Often the need is simple: reassurance, safety, respect, clarity, closeness. The delivery is chaotic because the system is panicking, and panic doesn't speak gently. It speaks in explosions. Still, we can't romanticize it. Reactivity can hurt people. It can break trust. It can turn love into eggshells. It can make friends or partners feel unsafe. That's why this work matters. It isn't about blaming yourself forever. It's about taking responsibility for repairing what survival mode damages. One of the most powerful skills for reactive people is separating the feeling from the story. Reactive people often fuse them. They feel an emotion and instantly build a story that justifies it. I feel anxious, so something bad must be happening. I feel rejected, so they must be rejecting me. I feel angry, so they must be attacking me. But feelings are signals, not evidence. They can be real and still be misleading. Learning to say, "This is my feeling, and I am not sure what it means yet," is a huge step toward calm. It slows down the mind's rush to certainty. It gives reality a chance to speak. And reality almost always speaks slower than fear. Another major shift is learning to tolerate uncertainty. This is hard because uncertainty is the birthplace of reactivity. But uncertainty is also normal. You can't eliminate it by reacting harder. You only create more uncertainty afterward. Tolerating uncertainty doesn't mean liking it. It means surviving it without becoming destructive. It means saying, "I hate not knowing, and I can stay here anyway." That is a muscle. If you never use it, it stays weak. At first it hurts. Then it becomes possible. And when it becomes possible, something subtle changes. You stop needing to control everything, not because you stopped caring, but because you started trusting yourself. In the presence of chaos, the secret of calm isn't controlling the world. It's trusting your ability to face it. That trust is built by evidence, by remembering what you survived, by noticing the times you didn't fall apart, by giving yourself credit for resilience. Instead of only criticizing your reactions, reactive people often have a cruel inner voice. They judge themselves harder than anyone else. They call themselves unstable, but most of them are incredibly strong. They've just been strong in a way that costs them peace. So part of healing is softening that inner war. You can't regulate a system. You're constantly attacking. Let's be clear about what calm will look like. For someone who's never had it, it won't look like instant silence. It won't look like never getting triggered. Calm will look like shorter storms. It will look like recovery that takes hours instead of days. It will look like catching yourself 5 seconds earlier than last time. It will look like walking away instead of escalating. It will look like breathing in the middle of a conversation instead of lighting it on fire. Those moments are not small. They are proof of rewiring, the nervous system learning a new language. And yes, sometimes support helps. Therapy isn't the only path, but it can be a powerful one, especially if your alarm was built in childhood, because a good therapist helps you trace the old pattern, name the root, and practice regulation in a safe space. But even without therapy, the principles are the same: awareness, pause, body safety, relationship consistency, and patience. Patience is big. A reactive system became reactive. Over years, it does not settle in a week. It settles through hundreds of small choices that teach your body a new normal. There is also grief in this journey. When you start calming down, you sometimes realize how long you've lived in survival, how many relationships your reactivity strained, how exhausted you've been. Because true calm isn't a life without storms. It is a life where storms don't take your steering wheel anymore, where your emotions are allowed to speak but not allowed to drive, where you can feel anger and still choose your words, where you can feel fear and still choose your steps, where you can feel hurt and still choose your dignity. That is what emotional maturity is. Not the absence of emotion, but the presence of choice. So, if your nervous system has been living in alarm mode, if your body doesn't know how to rest, if your mind feels like it can't stay quiet, don't mistake that for a life sentence. It's just old training. Training can be updated. Your pace can slow. Your breath can deepen. Your reactions can soften. Your peace can become familiar, not because life will stop testing you, but because you will stop failing. The same emotional test. One day, you'll notice a moment that used to explode you, and it doesn't. You still feel it. You just don't become it. You speak softer. You wait longer. You choose better. And in that quiet victory, you will realize something that once felt impossible. You were never meant to live in a storm forever. You were meant to learn how to come home to yourself.